The first time that I heard Disney is going to take over Star Wars, I knew it might be bad because at the time Disney was renowned for making kids movies, and a movie like Star Wars where people lose their limbs, where they can get decapitated, wasn't really the thing that I thought Disney was going to excel at. But apparently, I didn't know just how much the mouse, haha, is going to be able to destroy the franchise. From the woke propaganda, the marketing surrounding the movie, where you now don't just have people who love Star Wars, but you have the good fans that are progressive, forward thinking, part of the feminist ideology, and then you have the bad fans, which are very attached to the old episode that were a boys only club, and they're bigots and misogynists and evil, and they drive actors away with their criticism on the Twitter. So they created this very hostile and very divisive fandom, which turns out it didn't work well. And you need to stop being in denial if you think that the new Star Wars worked, because it's not just about putting butts into seats. Using an old IP might have some inertia and it's going to get people to watch the movies. But to see if a movie is truly successful or not, you have to question just how much extra merchandise is being sold, how many toys are being sold, how many people are proud of wearing the new IP's t-shirts, and so what. And it turns out that not a lot. I mean, a lot of toys were being sent back. A lot of toys were gathering dust in the shelves because of the poor job Disney has done. And I do think splitting the fandom was the worst thing that Disney could have done. There was no reason for it. It was just antagonistic for the sake of being antagonistic. And I think what they thought was that if they split the fandom, they're going to pretty much say that they're a progressive company championing women's rights. And look, all these misogynists don't like it. So if you don't like misogynists, buy our merchandise. And I think people just want a good product. People, when they look for entertainment, they don't look for political clout. At least not the overwhelming majority. So take that in mind. Like, you now have the fandom split, and it's ingrained into the psyche that if you like the George Lucas films, then you're a misogynist and a bigot. And if you like the Disney version, then you're progressive. So when people went to the cinema, not only were they told this, but now the movie was using the main characters as mouthpieces in order to say that you need to get rid of the old, kill it if you have to. In other words, the previous episodes are really bad, and we need to get rid of them in order to make room for the new. And this is why a lot of people were upset when main characters from Star Wars were dropping like flies, because the old didn't have a place anymore. Han Solo kissing Leia is rape culture. Han Solo has to die. Luke Skywalker is the straight white male protagonist. Luke Skywalker has to go. So when you take that into consideration, you realize that Disney getting rid of the classical actors wasn't because the story required it. It was a political decision to spite the old fans. And I think like this is the main problem that Disney had. Now, I understand why you would want to kill off the important characters from Star Wars. Because Star Wars is not like a comic book. It's not like a cartoon. These are real actors which get old and they pass away, like it actually happened with the actress who plays Leia. So you can't really keep the story going without explaining why Luke Skywalker doesn't want to help save the galaxy. If the actor who plays Luke Skywalker is very old and he can't play in the movie anymore. So you need to have like an in-movie explanation for why that is. But there are several ways you can do it. Like, number one, you can just set the sequels in the far distant future so that you don't have to kill off the characters. They can just be dead from old age. Number two, you can do what they did in James Bond and just cast a new actor to play the new Luke Skywalker. I mean, a lot of other movies have did it. You see it in Harry Potter with Dumbledore. They just casted a new guy. But if you do want to go the route of killing the main cast to make room for, I guess, like the new actors, you should do it in a way that is good for the story, and at the same time it gives a good farewell that is sensible and heroic. And none of that happened here. In fact, the deaths of the main cast were spiteful, were very poorly done, especially the way Luke Skywalker dies. That was very anticlimactic. People didn't even expect him to pass away. It was just really, really bad. So with that in mind, it's interesting to see what George Lucas would have done, because there are rumors of how he would have continued the trilogy if the mouse wouldn't have gotten involved. So Lucas indicates that in the Star Wars archive that Episode 7 would have been set a few years after the events of Return of the Jedi, similar to The Mandalorian. And this setting would have explored the chaos and lawlessness that exists after the fall of the Empire and as the New Republic begins asserting control. Even as Leia is trying to establish a new and better form of government, her brother is beginning his quest to rebuild the Jedi Order. So the reason I really like what Lucas was doing here is that Star Wars has a lot of world building. It involves a lot of politics. It involves the universe being unveiled and showing these fantastic and interesting worlds and places. But if you look at Disney Star Wars, it's very self-centered on the main characters. I mean, the episode, the second episode of the trilogy takes place mostly on a ship and maybe like a planet that you learn that capitalism is bad, and another ship. But it doesn't really tell you anything about the political situation in the universe. In fact, the first Disney episode doesn't tell you at all about who the New Order is, how they managed to become so powerful, what are the politics. So when the New Order manages to destroy several planets, I don't feel anything. I just don't care. I don't care about those people. I don't even know who those people are. So it's really bad when I, as the viewer, don't get to feel anything. So according to George Lucas, it starts out a few years after Return of the Jedi, and we establish pretty quickly that there's this underworld, that there are offshoot stormtroopers who started their own planets, and that Luke is trying to restore the Jedi. He put the word out, maybe 50 or 100 of them are left, so it will take around 2 decades until you have a new generation of Jedi. Like, this would have been really great storytelling, right? It's world building. It doesn't focus just on like a character. It doesn't laser focus on Luke or anything. It would have been great to see some of the new Jedis trying to master the Force like Luke once did. It would have been an amazing story. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Lucas seemed to imply that his sequel trilogy would have unfolded over the course of several decades, allowing him to show the fruits of Luke's Jedi training labors and Leia's politicking. My god, like, this would have been so wonderful. Again, because it's world building. It doesn't just focus on what a couple of characters do, but it focuses on expanding the universe. Apparently, Darth Maul was the main villain, among many other things. The Clone Wars is notable for reintroducing Darth Maul, revealing Palpatine's original apprentice survived this battle with Obi-Wan, and has been nursing a grudge ever since. Maul went to play a pivotal role in later seasons of the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, but as Lucas reveals, Maul's return was meant to lead into even bigger things. He envisioned Maul as the central villain of the sequel, a crime boss who united the criminal underworld and fractured the remnants of the Empire against the New Republic. There's a power vacuum, so gangsters like the Hutts are taking advantage of the situation, and there's chaos. The key person is Darth Maul, who had been resurrected in the Clone Wars cartoons, and he brings all the gangs together, and one is with a set of cybernetic legs that a spider, and the other one has blah blah blah. This is like really, really interesting. Because, yeah, I mean, why do you need the Empire? Every time you have a major conflict and then a failed state throughout human history, you notice that lawlessness and gangs rise up. And a powerful Sith, someone who has knowledge in the dark sides of the Force, would have definitely managed to be the type of person that could unite the gangs. And yeah, in this case, you would have personal agenda against the Jedi. I mean, that would have been a very fascinating story. Apparently, Luke would still have died. And by the way, I have no problems with any of the main characters dying. In fact, I love movies and shows where the main characters die, because then you get to feel a little bit more tension whenever there's a fighting scene that happens. It's like, oh, they're not really safe. Because if it's like a Stargate or Star Trek, like they get in a battle, Picard is going to make it. They're all going to be fine by the end of the cliffhanger. But when you have something like Lost, or you have something, even The Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, you get to feel more tension when the combat happens. You get to feel a little bit more anxious because you're thinking, oh, like, they can actually be in danger. So, yeah, we don't really know about the circumstances of Luke's death. But it's very sad, because I'm reading this and I realize, oh my god, this would have been such a great story. Unfortunately, I don't think it's as great as the expanded universe with the Yuan Vong and other interesting races, but it's still light years in front of what we got from Disney. Haha. It doesn't seem to be spiteful towards the fans. It doesn't seem to attack the people who love Star Wars. And I'm really sad that, we're not going to get to see it. What do you guys think? And yeah, let me know in the comment section.